corrupt cop thought he'd found an easy payday when he stopped a black woman in a luxury car, never realizing she was the police chief's wife. What followed didn't just shock him, it shook the whole station. It was an ordinary Tuesday night around 10:30 p.m. in a nearly empty supermarket parking lot. Under the hard fluorescent lights, Sergeant Mitchell angled his cruiser behind a glossy BMW and strolled up with a smile that carried threat instead of courtesy. Vanessa Thompson stood beside the car, grocery bags on the ground, keys still in her hand, steady and composed while his headlights washed over her like a spotlight. Mitchell didn't see a citizen, he saw a target. A black woman alone in an expensive vehicle in a wealthy neighborhood fit the profile he hunted for his weekly shakedowns. He looked over her license and registration, even though they were flawless. "This car isn't yours, is it, Princess?" he said, enjoying the way the word landed. "Bet you don't even know who you stole it from." He talked about irregularities, hinted at jail, and let the intimidation simmer. Then he leaned closer. "We can handle this another way. $500 and you go home. Otherwise, it's going to be real hard to explain to your boss how you ended up in a stolen BMW." Vanessa, 34, a federal prosecutor who specialized in crimes against public administration, listened without flinching. For 12 years, she had built cases against officials who abused power, including corrupt police officers who ran extortion schemes. Still, she had never been the one trapped in the headlights. She watched his posture, his badge number, the way he blocked her path, the exact words he used. She had learned that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's patience sharpened into a weapon. She handed over the money because she knew this stop wasn't where the fight would end. As Mitchell pocketed the cash, he felt like he had won. Vanessa walked away, already building the case that would bury him. By morning, his ego was inflated and his wallet heavier. He strutted into Diner's Corner, the local breakfast spot where officers gathered, and started bragging before his coffee cooled. "Easy little stop last night," he told his coworkers, black girl in a Beamer. "Those types always fold when you push a little." The table laughed with him. "The trick is choosing women who won't report," he added. "They know nobody believes them over us." 3 tables behind them, Vanessa sat with a paperback open like camouflage. She had arrived early on purpose, tucked into a corner booth, and turned on the recorder on her phone the second Mitchell started talking. Every racist joke dressed up as police humor, every casual admission that he invented violations and scared people into paying, every line about targets being too afraid to speak, she captured it all. He was confessing to a prosecutor without knowing it. Vanessa wasn't just any lawyer. Her last major case had dismantled a corruption ring almost identical to Mitchell's ending, with 17 officers arrested for extortion. And at home, she wasn't alone. Her husband, James Thompson, ran internal affairs for the region, the division responsible for hunting crooked cops. For 3 years, James had tracked a rising pattern of late-night shakedowns without being able to pin down who was doing it. When Vanessa walked through their front door that morning, she didn't bring panic. She brought proof. They understood what they had. Not just a case against one man, but a doorway into an entire operation. James pulled archived complaints, dispatch records, shift schedules, and patrol logs. The spike was undeniable. In 6 months, extortion reports had risen more than 300%. Nearly always the same signature, women alone. Upscale cars, night stops, threats of arrest, cash solutions. Every incident lined up with Mitchell's shifts or with officers who'd been laughing with him at the diner. Vanessa knew patterns were courtroom steel. It can be doubted. A documented system doesn't bend. While they built the legal frame, Mitchell built his own noose. Drunk on the money, he started showing off online. Expensive dinners, designer watches, weekend trips. He posted a Miami photo beside a rented Ferrari. Hard work pays off. Eat kosher, good cop life. To his followers, it looked like success. To a prosecutor, it looked like unlawful enrichment in high definition. Vanessa created a burner profile and archived every post. Then she called in Special Agent Rebecca Torres, a federal investigator she'd worked with before, famous for slipping into corruption cases and walking out with undeniable proof. Over lunch near the courthouse, Vanessa slid the recordings across the table. Rebecca listened, her face hardening. "This isn't just one dirty cop," she said. "This is organized extortion." Vanessa's voice stayed steady. "He did it to me, and he openly admits he does it to others." With the FBI involved, the net turned into a web. Wiretaps were approved. Mitchell's patrol routes were tracked through cruiser GPS. Phone records were subpoenaed, bank deposits analyzed. The data drew a brutal map. Repeated stops in the same blocks at the same hours, detours to ATMs, meetups with the same small circle of officers, unexplained cash infusions that never matched payroll. Still, Mitchell walked around like he was bulletproof. His arrogance grew so large he began recruiting. Back at Diner's Corner, he coached a rookie on the side hustle, not realizing Rebecca sat nearby with surveillance equipment hidden in her bag. Choose women who don't want a scene, Mitchell said. Lawyers, doctors, executives, people who'd rather pay than get dragged through court. You scare them, then you offer them a way out. Every word went into the file. James also learned that Mitchell was being considered for promotion because his productivity numbers looked excellent. Numbers inflated by invented violations. Vanessa smiled when James told her. Let him get it, she said. The higher he climb, the louder the fall. Public corruption survives in back rooms. Public accountability needs a stage. That stage arrived on Friday morning. The main police auditorium was packed with officers in dress blues, families holding phones, and local officials hunting for a photo with an exemplary servant. Sergeant Mitchell walked in glowing with pride, tie bought with dirty cash, convinced he was about to be crowned lieutenant. Police Chief Morrison stepped to the podium and praised integrity and dedication. In the third row, Vanessa wore a scarf and sunglasses. Beside her, James played the role of a routine deputy. In the front row, Rebecca posed as a journalist with a camera that hid more than it showed. Mitchell stepped up to receive his new badge, and his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Do you remember the woman in the BMW? She remembers you. His confident smile twitched. Another buzz. Check your email. He opened it, fingers suddenly clumsy. A zipped folder stared back at him. Evidence, systematic extortion operation. In 5 minutes, this goes to the FBI, Internal Affairs, the press, and every social platform you use to brag. Mitchell's mouth went dry while Morrison kept praising him as a model officer. He scanned the crowd and saw Vanessa lift her sunglasses. Recognition hit like a collision. Vanessa Thompson, federal prosecutor. You picked the wrong family. In 1 second, he understood there was no exit. Morrison called him to the microphone for a thank you speech. The crowd waited for something inspiring. Another message arrived. Mitchell looked at the chief, at the audience, then at Vanessa. His voice cracked into the mic. I need to tell the truth, he said. The room fell silent. For 3 years, I have used my badge to extort money from women, he confessed. I invented offenses, threatened arrests, and took cash for myself. I am guilty. Gasps rolled through the auditorium. His family stared in horror. Fellow officers froze. Some angry, some terrified. Vanessa stood and walked to the front, steady as a judge. My name is Vanessa Thompson, she said. A federal prosecutor. I have documented evidence that Sergeant Mitchell and associates have systematically extorted dozens of women. Phones shot up. Rebecca revealed her badge to Chief Morrison and began officially logging the confession. James stepped onto the stage. Sergeant Mitchell, you are under arrest for extortion, corruption, abuse of authority, and criminal conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. What was meant to celebrate a promotion became a public collapse. Clips of Mitchell confessing under the department's own banner hit social media within minutes. Local news ran the footage before lunch. By nightfall, the region knew the name of the man who thought nobody would believe a black woman over a cop. But the bigger story was what came after. Over the next 3 months, Rebecca led a federal task force that used Mitchell's evidence to arrest 17 more officers tied to the ring. Investigators uncovered hundreds of late-night stops, dozens of victims who had paid in fear, and a trail of dirty money that had been hiding in plain sight. Mitchell was sentenced to 15 years. The man who once laughed about intimidating women discovered that arrogance is a terrible shield when the walls close in. Meanwhile, Vanessa refused to let the story end with one conviction. The system that once let predators thrive was forced into the light. Letters poured in from victims who had carried shame in silence. Many wrote that seeing Mitchell confess on that stage gave them courage to speak, to heal, to trust again. Vanessa helped create a victim support fund financed by seized assets from convicted officers, offering free legal help to people who couldn't afford to fight back. Law schools began teaching the case as proof that patient documentation and smart strategy can dismantle supposedly invincible schemes. At conferences on police reform, Vanessa's message stayed simple. Justice isn't just about punishing the guilty, It's about rebuilding a system where the next victim is protected before harm happens. Mitchell thought he was humiliating a stranger for a few $100. Instead, he exposed an entire ring and handed the tools to destroy it. Vanessa's response shows what real power looks like. Not rage, but patience, proof, and purpose. He assumed a black woman would be helpless and silent. She answered with law, strategy, and courage. Because when prejudice meets truth, prejudice breaks. And when one person refuses to bow, the system that protected the guilty can be forced to change for everyone starting today.